Today our topic is why desire is the root of suffering. Stoic perspective. Life is full of ups and downs, and often the way we feel depends on what we want and whether we get it or not. The Stoics, ancient philosophers, believed that desire is one of the main reasons we suffer. They taught that if we can understand and control our desires, we can live a more peaceful and happy life. Let me explain this idea in simple terms. Imagine you want something very badly, like a new phone, a better job, or even just for someone to treat you nicely. When you want something, you start to feel happy just thinking about it. But here's the problem. If you don't get what you want, you feel sad, angry, or frustrated. And even if you do get it, the happiness doesn't last very long. Soon, you start wanting something else. This cycle of wanting, getting, and then wanting more never ends. The Stoics called this the trap of desire. They believed that desire is like a fire. If you feed it, it grows bigger and harder to control. But if you learn to let go of your desires, you can find peace. Now, you might ask, but how can I live without wanting anything? Isn't desire what makes life exciting? The Stoics didn't say you should stop wanting anything at all. Instead, they said you should focus on wanting the right things and in the right way. For example, instead of wanting things you can't control, like other people's opinions or the weather, focus on things you can control, like your own actions and thoughts. This is a key idea in Stoicism. Control what you can, and let go of what you can't. When you do this, you free yourself from a lot of unnecessary suffering. Let's take an example. Imagine you're waiting for a friend to call you. You really want them to call because you're feeling lonely. The more you wait, the more anxious you become. You start thinking, why haven't they called? Don't they care about me? This desire for them to call is making you suffer. But here's the thing, you can't control whether they call or not. What you can control is how you react. Instead of worrying, you could use the time to do something you enjoy, like reading a book or going for a walk. By shifting your focus, you reduce your suffering. The Stoics also believe that many of our desires are based on false beliefs. For example, we often think that having more money, a bigger house, or a better car will make us happy. But these things don't bring lasting happiness. They might make us feel good for a while, but soon we get used to them and we start wanting more. This is called the hedonic treadmill. It's like running on a treadmill. You keep moving, but you don't get anywhere. The Stoics said that true happiness comes from within, not from external things. They believed that if we can learn to be content with what we have, we can find peace. This doesn't mean you should stop trying to improve your life. It just means you shouldn't let your happiness depend on things outside your control. Another important Stoic idea is that desire often leads to fear. When we want something badly, we start to fear losing it. For example, if you have a lot of money, you might worry about losing it. If you're in a relationship, you might worry about your partner leaving you. This fear can make you feel anxious and stressed. The Stoics said that if you can reduce your desires, you can also reduce your fears. They taught that the less you want, the less you have to lose, and the freer you become. This doesn't mean you should give up everything you love. It just means you should learn to appreciate what you have without clinging to it too tightly. Let's talk about another example. Imagine you're at work, and you really want to get a promotion. You work hard, and you feel like you deserve it. But then someone else gets the promotion instead of you. You feel disappointed, maybe even angry. This is where Stoicism can help. Instead of focusing on the promotion, which is something you can't fully control, focus on doing your best work. That's something you can control. If you do your best, you can feel proud of yourself, no matter what happens. This shift in focus can help you feel better, even if things don't go your way. The Stoics called this Amor fati, which means love of fate. It means accepting whatever happens and finding a way to make the best of it. When you practice Amor fati, you stop resisting life and start flowing with it. This doesn't mean you stop trying to achieve your goals. It just means you don't let your happiness depend on the outcome. The Stoics also believe that desire often leads to comparison, and comparison leads to suffering. In today's world, it's easy to compare yourself to others, especially with social media. You see people posting about their perfect lives, and you start to feel like you're not good enough. You might think, why don't I have what they have? Why isn't my life as exciting as theirs? This kind of thinking can make you feel unhappy and dissatisfied. The Stoics said that the key to happiness is not to compare yourself to others, but to focus on being the best version of yourself. They believed that everyone has their own path in life, and you can't measure your worth by looking at someone else's life. Instead of wanting what others have, focus on what you can do to improve your own life. This might mean setting small, realistic goals and working towards them, step by step. One of the most famous Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This means that true wealth is not about having a lot of stuff, but about being content with what you have. When you reduce your desires, you free yourself from the stress and anxiety that come with always wanting more. This doesn't mean you should live a life of poverty or give up on your dreams. It just means you should learn to find peace and happiness in the present moment, instead of always chasing after the next thing. Another Stoic philosopher, Seneca, said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This means that poverty is not about how much you have, but about how much you want. If you always want more, you'll never feel like you have enough, no matter how much you have. But if you can learn to be content with what you have, you'll feel rich, even if you don't have much. This is a powerful idea that can help you find peace and happiness in your life. The Stoics also believe that desire often leads to greed, and greed leads to suffering. When we want more and more, we start to take risks that can harm us. For example, we might work too much and neglect our health or relationships. We might take on too much debt to buy things we don't really need. This can lead to stress, anxiety, and even depression. The Stoics said that the key to avoiding this kind of suffering is to practice moderation. This means finding a balance between having enough and wanting more. It means being happy with what you have while still working towards your goals. In conclusion, the Stoic perspective on desire teaches us that wanting too much can lead to suffering. By learning to control our desires, we can find peace and happiness in our lives. This doesn't mean we should stop wanting anything at all. It just means we should focus on wanting the right things and in the right way. We should focus on things we can control, like our own actions and thoughts, and let go of things we can't control, like other people's opinions or the outcome of events. We should learn to be content with what we have and appreciate the present moment. By practicing these Stoic principles, we can reduce our suffering and live a more fulfilling life. Remember, true wealth is not about having a lot of stuff, but about having few wants. When you reduce your desires, you free yourself from the stress and anxiety that come with always wanting more. So, take a moment to think about your desires. Are they making you happy, or are they causing you to suffer? If they're causing you to suffer, try to let go of them and focus on what you can control. This is the Stoic way to a peaceful and happy life.